Boy, will this movie be a major hit. We know the previous movies were all cool, but this one is going to be special. If you've looked at the cast, this will tell you more than you need to know about the new Minions animated movie. We're so stoked, and that's why we're going to jump straight into Minions: The Rise of Gru is about to change everything. Let's dive right into it, shall we? Let's talk about the cast. Since we praise this movie for having one of the most insane casts out there, it would only be fair if we told you which people are going to be starring in it. As usual, Steve Carell, the legendary lead from The Office, will be voicing Gru, while Pierre Coffin will reprise his role, or more accurately, roles when he voices the hundreds, if not thousands of minions we see on the show. Now, we'll talk about the story in more detail, but here we're only going to mention the Vicious Six, a group of supervillains that Gru wanted to be a part of. So, who's going to be voicing these 6 supervillains? First of all, we have Taraji P. Henson in the role of Belle, the leader of the Vicious Six. Then comes Jean-Claude Van Damme as Jean-Claude. Get it? We also have Dolph Lundgren from Rocky IV that's voicing Svengeance. Danny Trejo, better known as Machete, will be behind the voice of Stronghold, Lucy Lawless as Nunchuck, and Alan Arkin as Wild Knuckles, who was the former leader of the Vicious Six. Oh, and how could we forget? Julie Andrews will be playing Marlena Gru, the loving mother of Gru. Plus, don't forget about the wacky Dr. Nefario, played by the legendary Russell Brand. So, we mentioned the Vicious Six and we mentioned Gru. The storyline around which the whole plot revolves is the backstory of Gru. There have been 4 Minions movies so far, and 3 of them were in the Despicable Me franchise. But in 2015, we got a different movie. The story talked about the backstory of the Minions and how they found their master, Gru. Well, now, Minions: The Rise of Gru is going to be a sequel to the 2015 movie, and it's going to be all about Gru's upbringing and his quote-unquote despicableness. The announcement was made in 2017, and in 2019, Illumination and Universal started working on the movie. That same year, we even got the title Minions: The Rise of Gru. A lot has happened since then, and we'll talk about the release date a little later. For now, we'll have to stick with smashing that like button if you haven't done so already. But no, what we'll have to stick with the backstory of Gru and how he and the Minions crossed the Vicious Six. You see, when the Minions found Gru in the 1970s, he was just a child, but they knew that this would be their supreme master. They stuck with him through thick and thin, and they also stuck with him when he got in trouble with the most cruel group of criminals in the world, the Vicious Six. You see, Gru had always wanted to be a supervillain. He wanted to be a part of the world of criminals, but he was just a child, and everyone in the organization was pretty old and they had a ton of experience in the underworld. When he went to the interview and sat in the waiting room with some of the other candidates 10 times his size, Gru was ecstatic. However, that excitement came to an end when he was called in for a so-called job interview. The Vicious Six couldn't believe that there was a child standing in front of them trying to climb through the ranks of the criminal world. They had a lot of destruction and havoc across the city. You can thank Svengeance for that. Gru finally managed to escape from them and come back to his lab. There, he asked for Otto to give him back the green stone he had stolen from these criminals. That's kind of ironic, don't you think? Otto stepped forward and he did give him a stone. But it wasn't the stone Gru had stolen and almost lost his life for. It was a pet rock. You see, Otto had traded in the precious stone for another quote-unquote precious stone, a little pebble with some googly eyes. Gru completely lost it. He damn near killed Otto, and we're assuming that the rest of the story is going to revolve around Gru retrieving the stone and the Vicious Six chasing him everywhere he goes because they think he has it with him. In short, in this movie, there's going to be a lot more destruction, a lot more mayhem, and a lot more of Kid Gru and his minions eating bananas. It's going to be pretty cool, but when will it air? For that, we'll have to look at
Hello, King Bob. Welcome to Buckingham Palace.
No.
the release date. Both studios had planned that the movie would be released in July of 2020, but this release date came in the beginning of 2020. Then we didn't really know anything about the COVID-19. The first trailer rolled out during the Super Bowls on February 2nd, and people were stoked. Yet, even though there was a lot of optimism, there were bound to be some changes to the release date schedule once the pandemic hit. The voice actors were forced to work from home, which meant that there would be some serious delay in the release date. Illumination got temporarily closed down because of the pandemic, and Chris Meledandri had this to say about the whole situation. In response to the severity of the situation in France, we're temporarily closing our Illumination MacGuff studio in Paris. This means we'll be unable to finish Minions: The Rise of Gru in time for our planned global releases. When they saw that work was really slow, the studios were forced to announce,
"Who wants apple slices?"
the double delay of the release date. This meant that the release date would be postponed not once, but 2 times. After the initial date fell through, the studio wanted to give themselves some more time, and they announced that instead of releasing Minions: The Rise of Gru in the summer of 2020, they would do it 1 year later. The second release date was July 2021, but as we already said, work was being slow. None of the team members could stick to the schedule. On top of that, the COVID-19 pandemic hit even harder, and there was no vaccine in sight. With a heavy heart, the studio realized that Minions: The Rise of Gru would have to be postponed again. Even though this franchise brought in $3.7 billion at the box office from all the Minions movies, it still got postponed. But you should note that it wasn't the only movie that took a hit during the pandemic. Universal also postponed the release date of their second most successful movie, F9, the 9th installment in the Fast and Furious franchise. And now it's final. They set the release date 1 year after the second release date, or in other words, July 1st, 2022. With this, it became the first July movie to be postponed until next year. That's right, we won't get to see the story of Gru this year. We're going to have to wait for most of the population to get the vaccine, and hopefully everything will be back to normal. The actors will be back in the studio, and we'll finally see what Gru does with his green stone. On a related note, we've been seeing a lot of Minions lately. So do you think Minions is becoming more popular than Toy Story? You can tell us in the comment section below. If you'd like more videos like these, don't forget to subscribe to our channel and hit the bell icon so you never miss any of them. And as always, thanks for watching, guys.